Thank you so much for the invitation. I would like to start with this question from the World Value Survey, and I would like you to think about it for a few seconds. The question is like this: generally speaking, would you say that most people can be trusted, or that you need to be very careful in dealing with people? What would you respond to that? Generally speaking, would you say that most people can be trusted, or that you need to be very careful in dealing with people? Do you trust people or not? This question is asked to people in different countries, and people answer differently to this question. And I will now show you some answers from different countries, different regions to this question. Where a high bar means a lot of trust, a low bar means you cannot be too careful with dealing with other people, less trust. We see here that in Sweden, almost 70% of the population, of the people asked this question in this survey, said, yeah, we can trust other people. In Norway, somewhat lower, but still high. Then we see Italy and Spain, only 30%, 35% state that they can trust other people. In Africa, even less. In India, somewhat more. So you see there's a great difference between countries in what people state that they can trust or not trust other people. A great difference in the general level of trust. I would argue that for what is known as the Nordic model, this is a key part. This is the cornerstone of the Nordic model, trust. For instance, in Norway, we trust the government with the petroleum fund. Norway is a major oil exporter. We have a petroleum fund which is worth 2 times our GDP. We trust the government with this money, and the government is trustworthy, and being trustworthy, that creates trust. We trust the government with our taxes. We pay a lot of taxes, but we do so without too much complaint, because we trust the government to spend the tax money in an efficient way and in a fair way. So you create this virtuous circle, this good equilibrium, which has been shown to create economic growth. Recently, in an article in the American Economic Review, it has been shown that trust is a key driver of economic growth. What has this to do with a multi-ethnic society? Well, 2 very well-known Italian economists, Alberto Alesina from Harvard and Eliana Lafferara from Bocconi, have shown that ethnic diversity reduces trust. So, trust in a multi-ethnic society is at a lower level in general. Norway is a small country, only 5 million people, but it's one of the fastest growing countries in Europe, and it's primarily driven by immigration. So the population of Norway is growing very fast. In fact, 12% of the Norwegian population are now immigrants. Where do they come from? Well, these are the top 10 source countries asking for Norwegian citizenship, and you can see Iraq, Somalia, Afghanistan, Russia, Pakistan. These are the top countries asking for a Norwegian citizenship. And the question then arises, based on the findings by Alesina and Lafferara, well, can the Nordic model, which I claim is built on trust, survive this immigration wave? Until recently, Norway was not only a small country, but a very homogeneous society. We all looked like me, you know. We were all blonde, and we were all Norwegians, basically. We all spoke the same language. A very homogeneous society. You can argue, and the research shows, that it's easy to build trust in a small and homogeneous society like this. So will the Nordic model survive this immigration? Norway is becoming more multi-ethnic. I'll just show you one statistic which addresses views on immigrants in Norway. And the statement that the survey asks people to take a stand on is: immigrants in general do a good job in the labor market. They make good efforts in the labor market. And, well, you don't speak Norwegian, but I can show you that to the left it means I fully agree that immigrants are doing a good job. The second to the left is I agree to some extent. And then the middle one is so-so, and then to the far right, I strongly disagree, to the far right, I strongly disagree that immigrants are doing a good job. This doesn't work, but okay. You can see, and this is from 2011, 2012, so people in general in Norway are very positive to the immigrants' contribution to the labor market. And if anything, the tendency is, okay, the tendency is that it's rising. So far, at least for now, with high oil revenues, there is no sign of increased distrust. Indeed, in the recent parliamentary elections, immigration was almost not a topic at all. The question, though, is what will happen in Norway or in Scandinavia if the economic situation turns for worse? For Norway, what will happen if oil prices go down, for instance? Will Norwegians still maintain this positive view of immigrants? That's an open question. What can Mezzogiorno, what can Italy, what can Europe learn from the Nordic countries? The Nordic model is often praised as being an alternative and a very well-functioning alternative. Well, I think you should be very humble. You should be careful when offering advice based on a specific country's experience. But I think one lesson is that it is possible for a country to have both high taxes and high growth. There is not necessarily a trade-off between taxation and growth. Indeed, taxation used for redistribution, which lowers inequality in society, well, it has been shown that this low inequality, this egalitarian society, is good for trust, and as I argued before, based on research, trust is good for growth. The key question then is, how do you move into this high trust, high growth equilibrium? Well, that of course is a very difficult question to answer, but I would start by saying that, choose trustworthy leaders. Without trustworthy leaders, it's difficult to create trust in society. You need role models that are trustworthy, and then based on that, you will create trust. To conclude, I've argued that trust is a cornerstone of the Nordic welfare state, the Nordic model. We pay high taxes to the government, and we do so without too much complaint because we trust the government. We accept that the government builds up huge oil funds rather than spending the money today, because we trust the government will spend the money well. So this is a very nice situation. Are there any threats? Well, addressing the topic of this session, towards a multi-ethnic society, clearly that is a challenge. Norway is not the homogeneous society it used to be. It's moving towards a more multi-ethnic society. And how will this affect trust? Well, in good times, so far, so good. But what happens around the corner when oil prices drop, and they will at some point, we don't know. And the fear, of course, is that a temporary shock to the economy can bring us out of the good equilibrium and bring us to a less pleasant equilibrium where there is less trust, and without the trust you don't have the good institutions, and there you go, a bad equilibrium. But so far the message from Norway is that it's a small bubble of happiness in Europe, and I would say that trust and good institutions is the secret of this situation. So thank you so much.